Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, I got a couple of tropical trees that need some attention. Welcome everyone into the passive solar green frame. Another gorgeous day. Good lighting to kind of work in here with some mix of sun and clouds. And I got a couple of trees that we have to work on. Now I'd love to edit some more videos on the big old road trip east of the Mississippi, but there's a couple of trees that need my attention. And one of them in particular, I noticed when I came back and watered my trees for the first time without a sprinkler, I said, hey, we've got to do something. So when your trees are talking to you, and it's telling you, hey, you might want to check me out, I got to stop what I want to do, edit some stuff, and show you all some cool trees, some more of them, like part 2 of the Chicago Botanical Gardens. I hope you enjoyed that, which we just released. But you got to take care of business, and I've got a lot of trees here, and if they need my attention, I better give them my attention. So we are going to work on the Gmelina. Now this is not an emergency, but since we're working on this tree, which won't be very long of work, I thought I'd work on these two. So I've got a cutting from a melon seed ficus right here that we're going to work on first. So I'm going to move this big old octopus out of the way, and we're going to come back to the octopus. That is something else, that Gmelina. But we're going to do this first. So we're going to do a quick little repot, and here's why. We talk about a couple different times to repot with bonsai, and usually it's every 2 to 3 years with most species, and we want to repot maybe if we're going to put it into a show, which isn't the best thing to do, but if you want to get it a good repot for into a show later on that year, think about that in advance. We usually go every 2 to 3 years, so we're not getting too much root bound. We want to do some root work and make sure we got a good root flare. We're also going to repot possibly when there's something going on with the tree. If it's not healthy and we're kind of concerned, we might look at it then. And today I'm going to do a repot because this, when I watered yesterday, water pooled in this little round cute pot. It just pooled right to the lip and it just sat there for a while, which makes me concerned that there's not a really good bit of percolation going on. The water's not draining so good. Why? I'm not sure. It hasn't been repotted for a year or two, so it's probably time. It is August. It's a tropical. Why don't we do it right now? So let's go ahead and dig in this tree. So yeah, sometimes just something's happening with your tree. If I were to ignore it, maybe this tree would have a tough rest of the summer and fall and introduction back into the plant room and not grow very much. And to be honest, this little tree has not put on a ton of growth in the last year or so, so I wonder if something is going on. So let's freshen up some soil. So I will let you know, major chop here, major chop here, major chop here. If you go look at melon seed ficus, the history of this, go back and take a quick peek. I might show you a quick image of what it looked like a few years ago, and it was almost like a hand with all the branches going up, and now we're left with one. So we have some pretty big scar marks here, and it's a pretty nice big nabari. It started with a cutting like, something this thin, this branch, and now this is a good inch plus. So it's kind of a weird, odd shape, but over time it could thicken up. We got another branch growing right here. That branch could help thicken up this area, heal the wounds, and so I'm not really going to prune anything today. Well, it is me we're talking about, so I probably will just trim a couple of tips off, who knows. But let's get it out of here and see what's going on here with this soil. I mean, it's certainly not root bound. We're going to go right back into the same pot. There's no real clog at the bottom of the pot, so that's okay. Let's turn it over and kind of see. Yeah, we're not even close to a root bound tree. Maybe the top here, it's a little gunky. I heard Andrew Robson, if you go look at Rakuyo deciduous bonsai, Rakuyo with Andrew Robson, his videos, he just did a series on fertilizing. So go check out a really good series on how he fertilizes. He's got a nice automated system that he uses, the dosatron, I think he called it. A lot of professionals using the dosatron. Works with your hose system. So a lot of liquid fertilizer he's using. And one of the things he stated in his video, which I have had some issues with personally, is if you use granules and like those hockey puck type things, as opposed to liquid, if you use those granules, especially in the organic realm, maybe not so much the chemical, but in the organic realm, when you use some of those systems, when they get less and disintegrate into pieces, parts, then they are not, well, what they're doing is they're leaving kind of a film over the top layer. And he said that, and I was like, hey, bing, 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 that's exactly what I think happened to my holiday cactus. You remember the holiday cactus, everybody? I repotted that one because it wasn't getting much liquid. I don't think water was being taken up in the system. And I think it was because of that, really, that situation. Because there was fertilizer that was kind of spreading out. It kind of made a film, or not a film really, but a thick, cakey substance. And it just didn't let the water penetrate through very much. Was that the case with this one? I do not know. So we're going to give this a little splash of water, and we're going to zoom up a little bit and see what we can find out. So this isn't a long operation. It's just kind of checking things out. And so I'm washing the roots of this guy real good. We'll get them washed out. And again, not even close to root bound. Not a lot of fine feeder roots as I expected to see. But again, I wondered what's going on with this tree. Why is it not, well, just pushing out a ton more growth. Okay, I'm going to rinse this out as well. So if there's any issues with this pot, with the soil, we're getting rid of some of that. Now I will say, as I rinse out this pot, you see where these really fun legs are? It's a three-legged pot, very unique. Where those legs are, there's a little pinch, an indent in there. Water's going to stay in there. Never a good thing to have water pooling in your pots. And so that's kind of a bummer with this pot's design. But I don't think that's the issue with this particular tree. And they're very, very small pockets. We just won't have a lot of massive roots right there. Okay, so we have a really thick chunk of root here for a very small tree. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut these down just a little bit. We got some fine feeder roots there, but we're going to cut this root back to here. And we're going to cut this one back down to here and got downward cut so I can get more spread of roots. And I think I'll shorten this guy just a little bit as well. This guy in the back, I like how that this one's going sideways, so I'm going to cut this out. It was going that direction towards the windows. So I've got some decent roots here going out this direction. So again, every time we can look at our tree, we can the roots in particular, we can really see if we're getting that 360 root pattern and try to take care of some of those roots that are not. This is growing sideways too. I'm going to cut this off and hope we get some more spread out the other direction. This is growing up a little bit. And this is growing up and sideways. I'll cut that one off. Okay, so I have a decent flare on this side. I have a big root here that I just cut smaller, so we can hopefully get more spread here. We're going to keep it flat on the bottom, trimming off just a few of these edges. And again, this is August. I have plenty of time for recovery. This might have been best at the end of June, early July, and I would have had a lot more recovery time, but I think we're okay. So a pretty simple operation today. We just want to put this in fresh soil so it'll have a really good opportunity to put on some more growth. I'm going to put some soil in here, some of my small. And I'm not going to wire this in either because I don't typically wire in my tropicals anymore. I'm going to go ahead and use some rocks to put this in here. And this is a round pot. So how do we situate this thing in here? What's going to be the new front of this tree? Maybe I work on a little bit of an angle this time. That root, that branch will be hidden in the background. But let's give it a little bit of an angle in this round pot. Just a little bit. And let's fill it up with some soil. And let's poke around at this thing a little bit. So don't be afraid to check your trees this time of year, your tropicals. You know, again, we are pushing the middle of August now. And so we're coming down to that end of that window in the upper Midwest. where we're not going to have that much hot weather anymore. But we can have 90s in September. We're going to be just fine. Now I didn't place it far enough over on this side, so we're going to kind of move it over here a little bit more. Again, for a true lean, we want it to be start over on the right and kind of go towards the left. Now that makes this not a very attractive front and around pot, but we've got this as a possibility, we have this as a possibility, so that's just fine. So we're going to go ahead and water this over my water bucket over here, and we're going to watch the drainage. And there's the drainage. And much faster. Now I did learn about these little pots down here, so that can be telling me in the future that there might be a little extra drainage time because of those holes. And when I put a lot of water at once, yeah, it sits there for a brief moment, but no, it didn't just sit there long term. Last night when I saw this, it sat there for several minutes before it drained. And then of course, if you have pots and you want to make them drain more, you can put something under this leg, like my chopstick, and lean it up the ground like there, and it's going to put all the water that way in a rectangle pot with good drainage. But this might send all that water into those little feet. So we're going to put that right there. I don't even think I need a rock on here. We're going to go put this back out on the bench outside and let this continue to shoot up. Now this is a melon seed ficus. They have a similar trunk to a tiger bark when they're wet. You can see little speckles on there. But you know what? Contrary to what you all thought and what I even thought, I'm not going to touch the top. It's going to go back on the bench, and we'll tackle tree number 2. Here we have tree number 2. It is the Gmelina. And look at, you probably can't even see all the shoots. Almost 2 feet there. Yeah, look at that tree. Really thick in the middle with bigger leaves and all that young growth. Now I clipped the top up here earlier this summer, and sometimes that stunts the growth, but I'm already getting more growth on there. We've got more growing season. I'm just going to cut this thing up, and we're going to put it in a new pot. Now, you have to be careful with the Gmelina, also known as the parrot's beak. In nature, if these grow to full grown, they can have flowers that kind of look like a parrot's beak, but not in a bonsai pot that I know of. It'd have to be a big pot, big tree, and leave it alone for a long time to let all this grow out and maybe to bud with some flowers. So we're going to repot this thing. Now this has an awful lot of thorns on it, so you have to be careful. So before we repot it, I know that I don't want any of this length. So some pretty easy decisions up front. Now I don't remember how easy these propagate. I think I've had some success, but I also remember a little bit of finickiness. So I don't know that I'll spend much time propagating these. All of those that wish they had a Gmelina might be going, oh, Dave, I'll take them. Let's just cut this way shorter. And now we have a tree that's resembling more of a tree and not an octopus. There we go. So I can put it back on the bench right there and just see what happens. But we are, in fact, going to repot this one too, because I don't recall when this one was repotted last. I want to make sure that we have some good fresh soil in this one as well before we put it in the plant room in a couple of months. Back with the wire cutters. We're going to get this out of the pot. So again, this is a Gmelina, spelled Gmelina, Gmelina, also known again as parrot's beak. And again, I believe repotted a couple of years ago. So I could have gone another year or two possibly with this tree, but we're going to see how much roots are in this one. Look at that. We got some nice roots in there, huh? Look at that. The mesh is stuck to the roots. We got all the roots down there. So that's looking pretty lovely. See if I can get rid of these wires, and then we'll start to sift through our soil and get ready for our repot. So as with always, we've seen this a million times. I won't show you the whole process today. But if you're new to bonsai and you haven't seen this Gmelina for a long time, or a Gmelina, let's just show you some of the roots here as we sort out from the top, working our way out to try to see if we can spread out these roots, get rid of the soil, and we're looking to see what kind of radial root pattern we have established in this tree. Now I love to see all these roots, so this is exciting. We are going to cut back roots today on this one, unlike, well, I cut a few off of that little melon seed. But we're going to cut a few more roots off this one. This is a little bit more of a major repot. Not because it was root bound, because I think it was time. It had been 2 years since I did this one. And I think I want to see if I can put this one in a little bit nicer pot as well. Because it is in a bonsai pot now. And if I'm going to have it in a bonsai pot and it's doing well, and right now I'm liking the roots that I'm seeing, I think I'm going to treat this one to a nicer pot that we can hopefully let it grow and be a little bit more bonsai beautiful in a nicer pot. Now you don't have to, of course. You put it in a thicker pot with room to grow. You're going to get more massive growth. This thing's been growing ferociously though, so no problem there with growth. So there we go. Look at all that. So now that, of course, is circling around the pot, right? Whether it's rectangle or whether it's a circle. There's our mesh. When roots are getting that long and leggy and growing all around the pot, you know, we're not going down to this really small, fine feeder in more locations, just some of the tips of some of those. So we're going to cut those off and try to encourage even more of our small feeder roots. Now we got some gnarly roots up top. We're going to have to do some work on that. So we'll start cleaning this out here, and we'll get some close-ups of this root system. So here we have our root structure. Nice and flat down here and flaring outward. That's really good to see. But right off the bat, let's go ahead and give it a profile prune of all these long roots. It's going to go back in the pot. You see this one though? Look at that one growing sideways. We're going to cut that right off here, deep in, so that does not grow sideways anymore. Hopefully it promotes more down. We got some longer roots here again. That's going to go down into the pot. We can cut those. They're kind of growing up here, and they do come underneath pretty heavily here, so we're just going to cut those thick ones off. We want fine feeder roots on our bonsai, so those thick ones can come off too. All right, so a little bit more chopsticking here to see what I got. I got kind of some more thicker stuff in here, maybe almost some more. It almost feels like some of the original soil. It's so kind of dirt-like and less bonsai soil. So we're going to rinse this out real good and get rid of more of that. So sometimes if people are leaving a little bit more of that organic material in their bonsai soil, or when they first repot from a nursery pot, you know, that does promote a little bit more nutrients that might cling on to those roots a little bit more, so you don't just have all bonsai soil. But there are many tropical trees, deciduous trees, you know, your trident maples, you know, they do not need a speck of anything other than bonsai soil, and they're going to be just fine. Look at this big root, big pine bark there. So yeah, you can cut those back so ferociously, a trident maple, and you're just putting it in 100% bonsai soil. It's usually the pine trees that most people will save. You have to save and go maybe 25% of the original soil gone, and then another 25% 2 years later, and then maybe the rest, or keep going 25 for, you know, that 8-year span, and you eventually get all bonsai soil. So I need some more water to rinse this out, so let's go ahead and grab this right here and see if we can get a nice little rinse job on this one. I'm running. So I'm happy with my decision to give this a repot right now, and I'll tell you why. I had a lot of roots in there. It wasn't root bound, but I think if I'd have left a whole nother year of growth, it would have been smushing the pot next year, and I would have repotted maybe next June for sure. But this is going to set it up now to get a little bit more stability this late summer into fall. Start pushing out a little bit more roots, and then rest in my plant room, and then it's going to take off next year, and it's going to have room to grow, and we're deciphering some of these roots that will keep and take away. And again, you can't miss an opportunity to work on the roots. So as long as I have this into a repot situation, I get to just look at these roots now and see what I want to keep and what I want to put away. Now this is a really odd root here. It's almost like there was another tree here, and then it just shoots right up and goes right down. I'm actually going to cut that really big obnoxious root right off. I don't want that one here. Right there. So that took it off there, and it's still attached, so I don't even know what else that is feeding. But and there's another gnarly one here that just comes from somewhere down here by the trunk that we're just going to kind of come in here and manipulate. And take that off. And it's so entangled in there that it's not coming off cleanly. So it might need a couple of cuts. It might need a couple of repottings to get in there and see what's going on. This root right here is coming from way the other side on this other clump, oddly enough. It's coming from this clump going underneath this beautiful branch right here with a great flow. This one comes out and flows nice and goes totally to the right. We'll cut it here and hope that it grows some more roots and keeps that flare going straight down. This root is growing up. Let's get rid of that. We have an old root here that didn't seem to take. And then we have this big gnarly one sticking out, so we're going to get rid of that big gnarly one as well. There we go. And that comes back down to one of these big gnarly ones here. So again, I don't want that big gnarl. There we go. And that was just kind of a tangled mess. This one's growing to the left as well. And now you can actually see a couple of really cool roots down here that are going down, going zigzag and down. I like that movement. I still don't like this beast up here though. So we're going to cut this here and here and see what's next with that. I don't know where those two lead. Now this one is coming out of a crack here. I'm going to get that one gone. This one's crisscrossing. This is kind of a gnarly mess. So we are doing some major work here. Yeah, we need some of these roots to mature on that side of the tree. So good. So some work we needed to do. That'll help the future of this tree tremendously, and we'll be able to make decisions every time we cut into this or dig into this repot scenario. Now I still have a fair amount of roots on here. I'm not going to cut them all off. Slow but sure, we're going to make a flat bottom here. So here's a long root right here that comes from that root right there. This right here and this right here. It's a nice split there, but it's going really a weird direction, so I just got rid of that. There's a root in here that's going way back to the left over here. That's coming from this conjunction of weird. So we're going to take that right off right here. Not sure what that was connected to down below. So I don't remember this root system being so gnarly. So yeah, I didn't take a lot off. This might have been one of the original put in this training pot from the workshop, which was probably 2 or 3 years ago now. So maybe this has not been repotted. And this is a lot of original soil left. So with all the film from my road trip on my discs, my camera just stopped right at the end of my root work. Yeah, I gotta get rid of some of that footage. Gotta make sure though it's on a computer before I delete anything from my camera. So here's our root structure right now. We cut off a fair amount. We've got some new potential roots to give us some flair. We got a little extra trunk action almost right here. And so we are all set to put this back in the pot. So I'm gonna get this one root that's growing up here. And let's still get this out of here. It's tangled in here like that. Okay. We did a fair amount of work to this tree. We're gonna give it some good aftercare. And we're going to keep this on with rocks as well. So I chose this blue pot. It's got some really good draping colors here. We got some dark blue down here, a little bit of a reddish color in here, and then this kind of lighter green, and it's spilled over. The glaze is spilled over real nice. So we're going to put this thing right in here. I'm going to keep it right in there. And we're going to go at an angle, just like that. Now it's probably not going to stay there until I get some more soil and a rock or two. So let's see if I can do this. I've got my burlap bag of soil here, so this is not going to be the easiest. This is the wonderful thing about having a lot of rocks in your yard. I have a lot of rocks that just naturally in this part of the city, this development, there's all kinds of rocks in here. And we're just going to put this, a nice slanted thing right there. There we go. There we go. Now there wasn't many roots to tamp through here. All laying and snugged in there pretty good, but I am going to water it right away. And of course these rocks won't stay on this display. So there we go. Making myself a nice old mess in the PSGF. All right, there we go. Let's change this angle just ever so slightly to the left. There we go. I'm going to put it right on that root right there, and then right underneath right there. There we go. And then again, settle some of that soil in there. All right. So there we have the Gmelina back in a new pot. A lot of root work. We're going to take care of this thing. I'll keep it out of the blazing sun for a couple of days. I don't want to stress this thing out. We just took a lot of roots off. So some species and some people say, yeah, you can defoliate tropicals and put it right back in the sun after a repot. Some people say be careful. I'm always on the side of caution. I want to make sure I'm not going to burn this thing out. And so I'm going to probably keep it in some partial sun, partial shade, and we'll get it back in that full sun eventually. So here's one of the fronts of this tree, or this is the front of this tree now. And it was a little bit straighter up before, but I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to go ahead now and shorten up some of these guys here that we were saving until after the repot. We're just going to bring this into shape a little bit. We've got a possible couple of new apexes up here, but we're still going to cut these shorter and let it take over. We just lost a lot of roots, so we're going to lose a lot of foliage. This one's coming from a weird direction back towards the front. We're going to get rid of that one. All right, so from this angle, it's real thick inside, so we can't even see what the tree's providing. So again, that'll come. I see a wound on this side. And this, we just have a whole bunch of branches coming out at us at the moment. So we'll go ahead and we'll just knock off some of these old stubs to start to heal. Matter of fact, I can take that whole branch off. That whole branch had a big thick nub there. We'll get that starting to heal. I don't think I can get any closer right now. That'll be for later. We'll cut this again a little bit shorter. So now I got kind of a clunky branch right here with a couple of nice branches going this way. So let's go ahead and cut this old branch off for the younger growth. There we go. And that's coming underneath again. There we go, got this new branch coming from there, so we have taper built right in. So that could be a branch out this way. This is growing straight up in the air back towards the trunk. We don't want that. So now I can see the trunk of the tree again coming up here, and then it swirls up here and comes this way. We'll get rid of this side over here and get rid of this old scar. We have this going away from us, which is nice. This is going away from us. This one back here, I don't like the direction of this one. We're going to get rid of that. Okay, that got rid of another old stump right there. So the Gmelina will put out a lot of growth, almost like our Chinese elms, where they'll just shoot out all kinds of new growth for the year. And now this new growth, this is new growth, and that already caught up to the old growth that was cut off. I'm going to cut this right here and promote it to grow this way. I'm going to cut this off there as well. We got this one in the back that we can promote up a little bit. This one we can promote either direction that takes off. Now this is kind of a competitor. We're going to cut that right off. We want a little air in there. So these two compete right here and here. So I think this back one is going to go. Yeah, we're going to take this back one off. Nice thick branch right there. There we go. So these two are looking a lot alike, so we'll see what happens with these, if we keep this one at all, or if at all the tree's going to be up here. So I'm going to put the scissors down. We cut off a lot of foliage. We cut off a ton of roots. Got this in some fresh soil, and we have a new tree that's got a nice new planting angle, and we'll have in this pot for a good couple of years before we do this process again. And we got rid of a lot of the original dirt, so this is all bonsai soil now, and we'll flush out and rinse out really, really well with this new bonsai soil. A lot of good drainage, and we can put this one now on the benches with the other ones. So we'll give that a little 360 spin there, lean into that left side. There it is from the other direction. We could end up trimming some of these and have that as the front if it's better. Either way, we can make those decisions later. We just want to make sure we now start to get more of these as primary branches. And then from there, we'll work on the secondaries, because this is a thick enough tree for me to just kind of keep slowly growing into a bigger pot. Is it super thick trunk? No. Is it close to any of the trees on my road trip? No. But I like the bonsai process, and I want to keep it in a bonsai pot. This is thick this way, and it's plenty big that this can spend a good couple of years, good 2 to 4, maybe 6 years in this pot. We'll see how fast that trunk gets a little thicker. We'll get this one back on the bench. Hey, that was fun. A couple of new repots. We fixed the other one, the small one. Hopefully that's going to recover and the drainage is better. We got a new pot for this guy, the Gmelina, that went nuts and looked like an octopus a moment ago. And now we're ready to just enjoy him on the benches. Awesome. Well, we've got more East of the Mississippi bonsai edits on the way. I hope you can be patient with me. It will take a little while. We got, again, 10 to 20 hours of footage, probably 20 plus, really. So we're going through all that footage. I'm going through all that footage, you know, me, myself, and I. And we will get there and have some of these side highlights of my other trees as well. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. It's getting a little warm in here. Take care of you. Take care of your bonsai. And we'll all catch you on the next one.